in the areas of Kasese, Bundubujo, Isingiro, and Kwen. But the government was able to provide relief to the displaced people. The rising waters of Lake Victoria could not damage our electricity power dams because, unlike in 1964, the government had already built the new canal that takes water to the electricity station on the Jinja side, to the Kira power station, which canal added itself to the Western Canal on the Njeru side that takes water to the old power station of Narubari. This enables us to, if necessary, open for 3,000 cubic meters of water per second to flow out. Unlike in 1964, when they could only open for a maximum of 1,300 cubic meters of water per second. This enabled us to go from releasing 600 cubic meters per second of water to now 2,400 cubic meters of water per second, thereby saving the dams of electricity and also preventing flooding around the whole of the Lake Victoria Basin. Because that lake can cause problems not only in Uganda, even in Mwanza, even in Kisumu and other Bukoba and so on. So we are lucky. It's good that we had, although that was not really our intention. We were just trying to maximize more dams, more electricity, but it helped us to be able to release more water. The Ugandans that had encroached on the beaches should peacefully vacate so that they do not suffer losses in future and do not damage the environment as they have been doing by causing the lake to silt, etc. Because when you are near the lake, you disturb the soil, and then when the Omukoka, the runoff water from Tunga, when it comes, it carries the soil into the lake. So the lake ends up being shallower and shallower and shallower. The floating islands were quickly removed by a combined engineering task force led by the Minister of Works, using the magnificent equipment, earth-moving equipment we bought from Japan. Very, very strong equipment, Komatsu equipment. On all this capacity for resilience, I congratulate the government and the people of Uganda for coping effectively with these challenges. However, for today, the main attention is on the coronavirus. When this global catastrophe descended from China through Europe and the Gulf countries to East Africa, after quickly conferring in depth with our scientists, we promptly realized that for now, this enemy could only be handled in two ways, as I've told you before. The two ways are avoiding the virus by tonsemberera, otampika, bed mabor ki lawoti. That is Luo. Momu, Ibuni, Eidunyi, Kedi, Eyong. That is Ateso. Miesimima Vuko. That is Rugubara. But the poor English, because you can see in our languages, we can quickly describe that. But in the poor English language, which doesn't have enough words, can only describe that situation as social distancing. They don't have enough words in English. In these our languages, very clear, you don't have to add another word. Otampika. Just one word. So that was one solution. Social distancing. Then using masks. So that you are warrior, what the poor English language they call droplets. But in our one of your languages, we call it warrior. Warrior is different from breath. Breath is another word. We have another word also, omwitio. But warrior, referring to the vaporous breath that comes out of us, that you can see as mist if you blow your breath against the mirror or even glass spectacles, that make sure that that does not carry the virus from you to another person by wearing masks. So that's the purpose of using masks. We use masks so that the warrior does not go from me to you, to other people. It stays near me. That vaporous breath. When you are breathing, you don't know it. But when you breathe against the mirror, you will see mist there. So that means that breath contained microscopic droplets of water, of liquid. And it is those that carry the virus. Sanitize surfaces where the virus can survive for up to 4 days on surface of, for instance, tabletops, door handles, chairs, armrests, microphones, etc. Regularly washing your hands with water and soap or use sanitizers. And never touching yourself in the soft parts of your body, such as the eyes, the nose, and the mouth with washed hands. All this is method number 1 that we could see was available immediately. When the virus descended on us, when we analyzed it with our scientists, we saw that the first, the available way of fighting the virus was to avoid. And how do you avoid it? By what I have said here. Tonsemberera, masks, washing, cleaning the surfaces with disinfectant, and so on. The second method was to enable the body to fight the virus by treating the treatable diseases the victim may have, known as comorbidities. Comorbidities such as diabetes, blood pressure, the cancers, HIV, etc., and boosting the defenses of the body by giving the victims the necessary vitamins, the other drugs that help the efficiency of the body, such as hydroxychloroquine, and the drugs that control the overreaction of the body to the invasion by the virus. So, this is what we have been telling you from the beginning. When the enemy descended on us, we analyzed with the scientists. And we looked this way, looked that way, looked at the whole world, the whole world. The scientists of the whole world, they had no quick answer except these two. Number one, avoid. Avoid in the manner I have described here. Number two, fortunately, unlike AIDS, when the body is supported, the body itself can actually defeat this virus. And it has defeated it. So while we could not kill the virus itself, by drugs, by medicine, the body could kill it if you support it. If we support it by doing what I've just said here. By treating the other sicknesses, what they call comorbidities, and by supporting the body with vitamins and some other body supporting treatments, which we shall share a little bit more later. Including controlling the overreaction of the body, because this is a disease which provokes you to kill yourself. It enters your body like a rat. If a rat came into this house, into this room now, if my soldiers were not disciplined, and they started shooting, that they are trying to kill the rat, they can actually end up killing us. Overreacting. Some diseases kill by provoking the body to overreact, by panicking and producing too many body soldiers in a non-coordinated way, ending up choking up kuniga or blocking kwigaza, the transport routes of the body, such as the blood vessels, and inflaming the surrounding areas, the tissues. These were the two available ways. Avoid the virus and assist the body to fight the virus if, for some reason, the avoiding has not worked. This has been our strategy. The other two ways of defeating the virus are still being worked on, both here and abroad. These are the way of a vaccine, kugema, kutsirika, and the way of getting drugs that attack the virus directly and disable it or kill it, rather than just helping the body to fight it. We are hoping for success on the two fronts also. In order to utilize the two available ways, between the 18th of March and the 1st of June 2020, we announced a total of 35 measures in order to avoid the virus and treat the few that could not avoid catching the virus. Those measures were the following, just to remind you, because I'm sure you remember them. We closed all the education institutions. 15 million Ugandans were sent home, and they are now safe at home. We suspended communal prayers in the churches and in the mosques and in the open grounds. We stopped all gatherings and conferences, banned Ugandans from moving to or through Category 1 countries. That time we were still talking of Category 1 countries. I think now Category 1 countries are very many. Initially, allowed returning Ugandans provided they underwent mandatory quarantine at their cost for 14 days. That's when we were still beginning. Allowed the non-agricultural gathering points, e.g. factories, hotels, large plantations, or of course farms. Those ones we never, we said those should continue. Discouraged the hexagonal, extravagant Ugandan-style weddings. You remember when I advised the people to go for the necessary, the relevant people. The bridegroom, the bride, the priest, two parents on either side. That's all that we needed. So we said all the other people, yes, they are good when there is no problem, but now, please, we don't need all that gathering. It's very dangerous. Burials, we said, should not exceed 10 people to bury somebody. Suspended weekly or monthly markets. Those markets in the villages like Ntungamo, Kagarama, Chabukuju, I remember them, Chanyamshusha, our markets there, Buzuera, Chavagonya, Zimbabwe. We used to have all those monthly cattle markets. At that time, we allowed the public transport systems to continue. We suspended all the discos, dances, bars, sports, music shows, cinemas, and concerts. Advised the public to maintain hygiene measures. Advised the public on good nutrition. Stopped all passengers coming into Uganda by air, land, or water. Eventually. Originally, we tried to manage the people coming, but eventually we said no, don't come at all, passengers. Prohibited pedestrians from entering the country from the neighboring countries. That was again later. All public passenger transports were stopped. Only food sellers to remain in the markets. The markets should not have mixed of food and non-food sellers. Private vehicles initially were allowed to continue, but only with 3 people maximum per vehicle. That time we had allowed the private vehicles, but later on we also stopped them. However, ambulances, army vehicles, garbage collection vehicles, etc. were to continue moving if needed, because even those ones had to move on account of need. Like the soldiers, you didn't have to move just because you are a soldier, no. You moved because you are needed on duty. We banned the movement of all privately owned private. Later on, when we saw the situation was getting serious, we stopped the privately owned vehicles completely. We scaled from you can drive your private car if you only carry 3 people, and we said no, all of you stop moving. Because we discovered that the people who they had converted their vehicles into taxis at that time. We suspended the shopping arcades, shopping malls, hardware shops. Stopped all that. We directed all non-food shops to close. The supermarkets were allowed to remain open at that time, initially. The established food markets in Kampala and other towns were allowed to continue being open at that time. Actually, those ones we never closed. The food markets we never closed. Food markets. It was a deliberate policy. Food is a must. That one is not something that cannot be interfered with. Anything else can wait, but not food and medicine. The food sellers were not allowed to go home during the 14 days, the initial 14 days. Later on, that was again extended. Saloons, lodges, garages were ordered to shut for the subsequent 14 days. Like the farms, factories were allowed to remain open. Construction sites were allowed to continue operating if they were able to encamp their workers. The essential services, i.e. like medical, agriculture, etc., were allowed to continue to operate. Cargo transport by train, by plane, by lorry, by pickup, by tuk-tuks, by boda-boda, by bicycles, were allowed to continue operating, but only with minimum numbers of crews. URA could not close business. Later, gatherings of more than 5 persons were prohibited. The prohibitions for incoming and outgoing means of transport did not include the cargo planes, or lorries, or pickups, or trains. Those ones, cargo, continued operating. Very deliberate. Food, don't touch. Tojikwatako, don't touch food. Cargo, don't touch. Yeah. It was deliberate, very calculated risk management. Health emergencies were allowed. If there was a health emergency, even a plane could come and pick somebody or take him out. Borders had stopped at 5. Initially, we had said 2, later on we pushed it to 5. So those are the measures we announced between the 18th of March and the 30th of June. All of them to help us avoid. Remember, that is the strategy. The weapon we have now against this enemy are avoid the virus and help the body to fight in case somebody cannot avoid. As a result of these measures, we have been able to blunt the invasion of the virus. We've been able to blunt it. Why do I say that? It is because after more than 90 days of battle with the virus, actually I calculated the day, they are now 95 days. After 95 days of war, of battle, a 3-month war up to now, Uganda has only got 774 positive cases of coronavirus after testing a total number of 170,789 persons. We have tested 170,000 to simplify the figure, and out of those, only 774 have been found with the virus. There were another 1,067 non-Ugandans that tested positive but were sent back to their respective countries. We had some argument with the WHO. You know, those WHO also, they are not gods. They are just human beings like Mr. Museveni, like, so they need help. So they were saying that Umuhinguzi Runyankore, somebody who is just passing, that if he is tested here, we own him. We said, no, we cannot. There's no logic. Because he was not infected here. Initially, we were not sending them back. But when we saw it was becoming a problem, we said, no. You cannot come with the virus, and then you say, I take you out. Go back to. Then WHO, whom I thought were, I'm not like Trump, who wants to fight the WHO, but I think they should have some modesty. They should stop doing things which without. They were trying to say, no, where you test him, he stays there. No, but I've tested him at the. Of course, they don't know our culture. The WHO don't know our culture, because for us, we have a fence around the home. And if I stop you at the gate, you have not entered, you go back. You have not entered the home. So, we were able to turn back 1,067 non-Ugandans that tested positive, but we sent them back to their respective countries because we tested them at the border. They were not resident, they had not even entered. When we changed and started testing at the entrance, it was easier to know that no, we are not responsible for this infection. Within the figure of 774 of the Ugandans that are positive, 373 are truck drivers. So you can see that the truck drivers are really the biggest contributor to this figure. 373 are the figure of truck drivers out of the 774. Therefore, this is like the issue of, I have my sanitizers here. Well equipped. Therefore, the graph of Uganda is here. I hope they will show it to you on that TV, the TV of the Honorable Nabakoba. They will be able to show you. It has gone up a bit compared to what it used to be, but again it is flattening. It is reaching a plateau a bit quickly before it has reached where many of the other countries are. So that is the graph. You will see it on the TV and see it also in the papers tomorrow or the day after. Moreover, none of the coronavirus infected persons has died. We are very grateful to God for that. And also we congratulate our health workers. These health workers are good. Those children are really good. Sometimes I speak with them on the phone, very, very good. You can see somebody who knows his job. Instead, instead, out of the 774 that have been found positive, a total of 631 have been treated in the manner described above, and they have healed and have been discharged from hospital. Apoyo Rubanga. Rubanga tiye. Katonda yebazibu. Therefore, as far as the death curve of Ugandans from the coronavirus, the graph of Uganda, together with other countries, is as here below. You can see it there. The Ugandan one is flat at 0 for 95 days. This is where I need to congratulate you, Ugandans. Nina okubayozayoza nti mwebala okulwanyisa akawuka. However, as I told you when I last addressed the country on the 1st of June 2020, these lockdowns cannot and should not be enforced forever. They affect sections of the economy. Therefore, last time, the following measures were directed to be removed or relaxed. The shops selling general merchandise were allowed to open, provided they were not in the shopping malls, the shopping arcades, and in the food markets. This issue of the food markets, please, I really want you to understand this. Because if you combine selling food and selling non-food, you cannot keep the social distance. You cannot have the tonsembele, because then the numbers will be too many. So that's why we said, between food and non-food, what do we remove from the market? And we said food must stay, because it is food that makes us survive. The other non-food, leave the market for the food. And that's why the food markets have been operating, because they have got enough space, they can spread out. And I have not checked, but I don't know whether we have had cases in those food markets. It will be good for, the minister is shaking her head, that the food markets have not had cases. So what we are talking about is not a fiction, is not a story. It is something that can work if we do it correctly. You can imagine, in the food market, 95 days, those people are selling food, people are coming, going, buying. But because of the preventive measures, nobody in the food market has been infected. So, what we are talking about is not a story, it is really the reality. The heroic market women that had been sleeping in the workplaces, in the markets for all those days, were allowed to go home and come back work daily if they wanted to. We did that because we had opened for public transport, because so they could go and come. They had a way to go and come. Opening of the public transport means of minibuses, buses, taxis, provided they carry only 1/2 of their normal capacity, plus the conductor, except in the 42 border districts. So we allowed public transport to resume operations. Hotels and food restaurants were allowed to open, but had to observe social distancing. Previously, we were allowing only hotels and restaurants to produce takeaways. But this time we said they could, yes, do the takeaways, but also open, provided they observe the social distancing. People with private cars were allowed to drive as long as the car did not carry more than 3 people, including the driver. However, this relaxation of the restrictions on the private transport does not extend, or did not extend, to the 42 border districts, including the island districts. Number 6, this time the shopping malls, not arcades, starting with the 4th of June 2020, were allowed to open, provided they observed social distancing. The guiding logic in all this is not wealth, business, jobs, or convenience. Because when I talk to people, you hear some of the people talking of business, jobs, money. The issue now, Ugandans, is not, yes, these are very, very important, but the biggest issue now is life or death. This is the issue. This is what you start with. You must eliminate the potential for death caused by carelessness, by this virus. Then you can do other things. This is the guiding principle. Why we do this and not the other one. It is what is guiding us. The guiding logic in all this, I want to repeat, is not wealth, is not business, is not jobs. Jobs were lost and so on. Or inconvenienced. Some people are saying they were inconvenienced. I'm inconvenienced. I've not gone from here for the last 95 days. I'm the most inconvenienced. I've not gone to see my cows. I've not met my mobilizers. I've not met even the Army Council. You cannot call Army Council. I'm just here locked down. But that's not the issue. The issue is, it is life. Do we live even when businesses suffer and jobs are lost? Or do we continue doing business, making money, and die? Because that's what's happening in some of the countries. We should not be like a hyena. You know, the hyena, one day it found a woman cooking, and the woman, hyena said, was cooking meat, and the hyena said, "Woman, can you give me some meat?" And the woman said, "Okay, let me, you wait a little, I will prepare." she got a hot a small stone, a small round stone, and covered it with fat, but hot stone, and told the hyena, say, hyena, you open your mouth and I give you the meat. The hyena opened, and then she dropped the hot stone in the mouth of the hyena, but it had the fat. Oh, then it started burning the hyena. Oh, then the woman said, okay, you spit if it is hot. Then the hyena said, but how can I spit? It is very sweet. Then the woman said, okay, if you can't spit, you swallow. Then the woman said, the hyena said, but how can I swallow? It is very hot. Until it died. It couldn't decide whether to spit or to swallow. We shouldn't be like the hyena. We should not look at money and things and forget life. The issue is life. We should not be like the hyena, which was ruled by the sweetness of the fat. The woman would say, you spit then. Say, but how can I? Should I spit something sweet? Then the woman said, okay, then you swallow. So, but how can I swallow? It is very hot. So what do you do now? That is the logic. Moreover, besides all this, with the discipline, we can even have both. Actually, with discipline, we can have both. We can have both life and wealth. All we need is just discipline. This is provided we do what is recommended. Now, I wanted the results of where are they? These are the figures which will be part of this document here. The daily tests of the positive people from the 21st of March. The whole figures are here, day by day. But what is interesting, the last, if for instance you start on the 8th of June, that time, on the 8th of June, we had 6 people who were positive. Before that, we were having some reasonable numbers. But on the 8th of June, we had 6. On the 9th, we had 4. On the 10th, we had 8. On the 11th, we had 4. On the 12th, we had 3. Where we had the big number was on the 20th, when we had 13. Yesterday, 21st, we had 2. These are from the population, the returnees and the population. But the drivers, even the drivers who have got their own column. 8th, there were 5 who were positive. 9th, there were 4. 10th, there were 6. 11th, there were 3. 12th, there were 5. 13th, there were 6. 4, 6, 2. This was on the 16th, there were 2. On the 17th, there were 4. 18th, there were 5. 20th, there were 2. Yesterday, 21st, there were 2. So these numbers are really coming down. And that's why I want them to be part of the... there's also another column, another line, because these people have given me the three sections, what they call returning travelers, contacts, and alert. Contacts are the ones who contacted who were contacted by the returnees or the drivers. Those are called contacts. Then the travelers themselves, when they were still traveling, or the drivers. And then there are what they call the alerts. Alerts are people who feel the volunteers. Somebody who feels I have sore throat. Let me go and check. So this they have got their own section. The drivers their own section. But there's another section which is interesting. This is called the Field Assessment Survey. This is where you go and the Banyamkole say, you see a bush, you don't know whether there is an animal there, and you go and beat to see whether an animal comes out. So, this field survey, there you go, and they look at an area like Higa and they say, Naruere. Drivers normally stop here. Let's check these people who are here. Let's check them. And you check them. This is called field survey. Or you go to the security people, the ones who have been stopping, talking, in the car, the police. Have these people not picked something from these people they were stopping? So when I look at the figures here, it is 0, 0, 0, from the 24th of May up to 11th of June. They were all zeros, nothing. This is interesting because these people, they were checking. It's random, but random which is guided by what you suspect. The drivers have been passing here. Let's go and check these people they have been talking to. You go and take their blood. So these figures will be part of this. They should. They are very interesting. As you can see, the number of drivers that are testing positive is reducing. Unfortunately, we are getting new positive cases from within the population that are mostly linked to either the drivers or the infiltrators from the neighboring countries. Hence, 62 of the positive cases are from Kyotera and 59 are from Amuru. These are figures, these are not stories. You don't hear numbers from Mbare, you don't hear numbers from Kapchorwa, you don't hear numbers from this place. It's specific. 62 Kyotera, 59 Amuru. This is on account of the elements that come through the porous borders. Since many people end up in Kampala, and with the opening of the public transport system, although with some restrictions, we are beginning to see cases in Kampala. The number is now 37. So you can see the map is becoming clear. You get Chotera, you get Amuru, you get Kampala. Together, these account for something more than 100 of the other 700 we are talking about. This Chotera and these ones here, these three, actually much more than 100, like 150 almost, 150. They are Chotera, Amuru, Kampala. And Kampala is because whoever comes in Uganda ends up in Kampala. We are therefore entering a more dangerous phase. Ugandans, we are entering a very dangerous phase. Previously, the problem was from the returnees from abroad, from the drivers, and from those who passed through the porous borders from the neighboring countries. However, with the reopening of public transport and the movement of private cars, we are beginning to get cases of people who are positive, but whose source of infection you cannot easily trace. If somebody picks the infection in a bus or a taxi, where people are not observing the SOPs, how would you easily trace those who were in the bus or the taxi with him or her? That's where the challenge is. That's where the challenge is. Therefore, our scientists have been tasked to audit all the remaining restrictions and advise. In particular, some of the stakeholders have been petitioning the leadership to more or less completely reopen all the activities of the country. People have been coming and saying we should do, these people are suffering economically, this group is suffering economically, this group. Whenever I get such requests, I refer them to the scientists. Here below is their response, the response of the scientists. Topic number one was the adjustment of the curfew time. Some people have been talking about the curfew to either reduce the hours or even remove the curfew completely. Even me, I was beginning to say, but this curfew, what is it for? If the cars are already moving, why can't, why don't we let them move as long as they are three in the car? And as long, I was beginning to think like that. However, the scientists have pointed out the aim of the curfew was primarily to act as an enforcement tool to prevent high-risk nocturnal activities. You see here now, the curfew is not just curfew, it is to stop you from socializing at night. This is how it becomes now medical now. Curfew is medical. It is health. Because if we don't have the curfew, which means we say don't move, then you can go and visit your friend in the evening. And even if the bars are closed, you can transform those houses into bars. Privately operated bars and shared. You can transform your individual house into a bar if you want with your family, and you all get drunk. But the danger is, if you now go to visit the neighbors to be drunk with them, That's where the infection comes. So, the curfew is to stop the socializing at night. That's the main aim of the curfew. Of course, at that time there was the issue like the bars, nightclubs, etc., conducting business, and to deter, but also to deter crime under cover of darkness. There's also that side of the crime. The start of the curfew at 7 p.m., just before darkness, and end at 6:30 a.m., just beginning of daylight, was deliberate to deter crime. In this time when these ones, people are having economic problems here, economic problems, without curfew, some can be attempted to commit crime. And in the process of crime, they will not only commit crime, but they also spread. They will be infected and they will infect, because they are moving from here to there to there. Pushing forward the curfew time from 7 to 8 triggers delayed closure of other sectors like shops, supermarkets, public transport, and gives opportunity of engaging in crime, which strains law enforcement. Uganda is in phase 3 of the COVID-19 pandemic, as evidenced by the clustered cases in Amuru, Chotera, and Buyukwe, while the other border districts remain at high risk. Activities that promote convergence with non-feasible mitigations can lead to occurrence of more clustered cases and eventually general community transmission. From the epidemiological point of view, the curfew acts as a measure to restrict activities that depend on convergence of people from taking place, hence reducing the risk of spreading the virus. The idea is to discourage gatherings in homes, hotels, restaurants, etc. Going home early and staying home the whole night is part of the prevention. It means less mixing. The curfew time is therefore strategic to reduce risk of spread and preempt crime. So this curfew is not just an anti-crime measure, which of course it is, but it is a medical instrument. It's a health instrument. Go home and stay home. By doing that, you only remain with your family. And when we are isolated in family units, then the infection is less, rather than having interfamily communication linkages. Then there was the issue of increasing the number of people in private cars. The current recommendation is for a private car to have not more than 3 occupants, inclusive of the driver. This can be increased to 4 people in a vehicle. So that one we can adjust. The requirement for masks for all vehicle occupants should be maintained, preferably with natural ventilation. This ventilation, air conditioning in cars, that one, the Minister of Health there will get time and explain to you. It may be better to open the glass a bit and you get the one from outside. But the minister will explain more, not now, but when she gets her own time. But you can have 4 people in a private car. The border business is one that relies on transportation of goods and people. The border riders and passengers are in close proximity during travel. Yet, physical distancing is an important prevention strategy for COVID-19. Secondly, Uganda has transitioned from imported cases to phase 3 of the epidemic, as already pointed out above, with the epicenters in the districts of Amuru, Kyotera, and Buyikwe. Further, the borders don't use traditional gazetted routes like main roads or feeder roads. Borders, if allowed to transport people at this stage of the epidemic, may lead to further spread with complexity in tracking cases and contacts, given the large number of people they transport, and penetrating the society and reaching where the vehicles don't reach. You see, this strategy, people were arguing for the borders. We are saying, the borders reach every home, because for them they can move even in a small path. But that's where the danger is. That's where the danger is. We don't want you to reach there. We have already taken the risk with the public vehicle, public transport. Yes, you stop 2 kilometers away, you walk. You walk. Convenience, remember, we are not after convenience. We are after survival. We are after life. So that walking, you are alone. I see my people walking in the streets with their masks. That's much safer. When you are walking alone, and another one is also walking, especially if you have masks, this is better than sitting on a border, and you don't know whether that border has a problem or not. And then this border going inside there, then going there, then going there. You are now spreading the disease by being lured by this apparently easy means of transport. So that fact that the border can penetrate deeper is actually the reason why it should be discouraged, because we don't want that penetration. We want people, if they have to move at all, they move with vehicle, with means which don't go too deep into the population. It's a bit inconvenient, but here we are not talking about convenience, we are talking about safety. Border, okay, the borders can reach where the vehicles cannot reach, and that in itself is a danger. Border okuyingira okusensera mu Luganda mwekiri okusensera eyo border okusensera mu buyumba eyo munda eyo mu mizigo awakabi wekali singa omuntu asigala singa avira mu motoka eri walako n'atambula ate n'agenda ewuwe ate emotoka gyatambuliddemu ebadde egoberera ebiragiro bye tutaddeko awakabi kali wansiko okusinga buno opikipiki okusensera eno neeri bwe wabaawo akawuka abo katambula mangu. People walking to their homes is safer than the boda spreading with the passengers in the community. The mitigation measures like putting a barrier between the passenger and the rider to prevent contact may pose additional risk of hurting the rider, the passenger, in case of a fall, in case of accident. The materials used for the barrier could also increase risk of coronavirus transmission, since some of the materials maintain viability of the virus longer. Eyo akantu ako kumagala kuteeka wakati ebimu bitereka akawuka obuglaasi obwo buyinza kutereka akawuka. The innovation of introducing the barrier is applauded. However, there is need to review the risks and provide further guidance through the SOPs. The innovations will be reviewed by the Minister of Health in consultation with the Minister for Transport and the Borders Association. In the interim, let the borders continue with only transporting goods as they have been doing. Places of worship. The places of worship are characterized by the following risk factors. Clustering with many people of unknown risk from multiple points of origin. These will open multiple congregations across several religious denominations countrywide and potential fuel infections across the country. 2, difficulty to enforce preventive measures like physical distancing. C, closed indoor settings where transmission is more efficient than in the airy outdoor settings. The various places of worship by nature attract persons irrespective of their nature, lifestyle, and risk profile. Mitigation by use of masks, hand and coughing hygiene may also be difficult to enforce. Complex, especially special religious ceremonies such as Holy Communion. Finally, contact tracing could be complex in the event of exposure of multiple people to COVID-19, since there are no records or listing of congregants. The restriction on religious gatherings should be maintained and re-evaluated in the last phase of lifting of restrictions. The National Task Force and the Minister of Health should engage and involve religious leaders in the coronavirus response across various levels, given their critical role in shaping societal perspectives and behaviors. So, the National Task Force will be in touch with the religious leaders to discuss all this. But the church gathering, the mosque and church gatherings, now that we have this virus in the population, will be an added problem, while we are still struggling with the public transport. Because we have opened public transport, we have opened private cars to move, we have opened shops, if they are not in the arcades. Now, to add all this is to take on too much. So let's first see how this work. On the issue of the arcades, the closely knit, multi-storied, densely populated buildings with multiple entries, no service areas for parking, commonly known as arcades, are areas where there is close clustering of people with unknown risk profiles. Unknown risk profiles is the language of the scientists. They don't know whether you are sick or not. This portion I'm reading was written by the scientists, so although I tried to bring them down to earth, like Jesus, how Jesus came from heaven and became part of us, but still their language is there. Risk profiles, what they mean here is simply that they don't know whether you are sick or not. I don't know why they can't say that. I think they sound more educated when they... So this unknown risk profile, what they mean is they don't know whether you have the virus or whether you don't have. The arcades are interconnected and the ventilation is poor, which increases the risk of transmission of the virus. The ability to enforce physical distancing is minimal, as witnessed by what is happening in Kikuubo in Kampala. We have already experienced clusters of coronavirus in the workplaces, e.g. a factory in Buyukwe area. The multiple entrances compounded with the convergence of people makes it difficult to track people in case of contact tracing. The National Task Force should direct the Minister of Health, Minister of Trade and KCCA to engage with the arcade owners to identify potential arcades to pilot prevention procedures. KCCA, Minister of Health and Minister of Trade should also review and enhance prevention compliance within the open shopping centers, particularly Kikuubo and other downtown centers. On the issue of the mobile markets, they have similar risk profile, same hazard, same danger, same potential danger, like the arcades, due to a high level of clustering. High level of congregation. Further, they attract people from far and across various districts with the potential to exacerbate disease transmission. They come from all places. Those mobile markets, when I was taking our cattle to the market in Ntungamo in the 1950s, later on in the 60s, a few times I took our cows to Guzwera, cattle market. We had a man called Warisi Mpanga, who was coming from Kampala to buy cows in Ntungamo, Rubare, this name, Nyakira Buju. I can imagine somebody from Kampala. Buzwera. Then we had another fat man from Barra called Buchenya, the Banyakoro called him Buchenya. This is because he was Bukenya. From Kirembe mine, that's Kirembe mine. Kirembe miners. So our cow tossed him with its horns, and Mzee Kaguta was very, very happy. He gave it a praise name, that it had tossed him Zungu. So a situation like that is very dangerous. These markets are pan-Ugandan. They are pan-Ugandan. Everybody comes from, I'm telling you, I'm a graduate of those, a veteran of those markets. The National Task Force should direct the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Animal Industry, and the Ministry of Trade to develop options and SOPs to reorganize livestock and other mobile markets, including agricultural produce. Hawkers, food and other vendors. A hawker is defined as he or she who travels about selling food, selling goods, typically advertising them by shouting, "Abatembe, abatembe, ntunda, ntunda." These persons interact with persons in their homes, offices and cars when at traffic lights, stops. The interactions are between people of unknown risk profile. You can hear their language, risk profile. But they mean you don't know whether the one you are talking to, whether he's sick or not. And if one was positive, had the virus, the transmission chain would potentially be explosive. It is difficult to track these persons as they are highly mobile. It would be wise not to encourage hawking during this third phase of the pandemic. Additionally, they should be targeted with communication to ensure compliance with the prevention measures. Repatriation of bodies for burial in Uganda. COVID-19 is transmitted through the respiratory droplets and by contact with contaminated surfaces. Current evidence suggests that dead bodies do not pose increased risk of transmission if handled with appropriate precautions, including use of personal protective equipment, including gloves, gowns, aprons, and masks, preventing fluid leakage, and minimizing manipulation of the bodies. Bodies should therefore be repatriated if they fulfill the following conditions: medical certificate of cause of death, post-mortem report or comprehensive medical report from the attending doctor, embalming certificate, copy of a passport, identification document, etc., import license, authorization for the director. Import here, you know, these scientists, they are talking of importing dead bodies. So when you hear them talking of imports, don't think that they're importing raw materials or something like that. Let's use the word repatriate, because importing really is madness. You are not importing dead bodies. You are repatriating. These are ones you are bringing back the body. Appropriate packaging, wrapped in a waterproof body bag, then placed in a zinc-lined coffin and outer metal or wooden box. The Ministries of Health, Foreign Affairs and Internal Affairs will provide guidelines and coordinated mechanism to implement the repatriation. The relatives should be advised to contact the Minister of Foreign Affairs for guidance on the process. The accompanying relatives will be required to undergo quarantine and other procedures for incoming persons, and the burials will be conducted following the existing procedures for scientific burials. For the bodies of the COVID-19 victims, the appropriate guidance will also apply. Saloons. Most of the activities in saloons, e.g. hairdressing, massages, etc., involve close contact between dressers and their clients. Salons also often have many customers from multiple risk profiles. Remember profiles, meaning from different backgrounds and settings. Contract tracing of exposed individuals, if this occurred, could also be complex without the detailed contact information of the customers. The restrictions on salons should be maintained given the experiences elsewhere. Salons have been documented to spread infection in other countries, e.g. Ebola in West Africa, COVID-19 in the US, among the others. The National Task Force should direct the Ministries of Health and Trade to engage with the saloon owners to explore options for safety and training. Travel in and out of Uganda for medical reasons, travel into Uganda for treatment. Several people from neighboring countries such as South Sudan may wish to enter Uganda for purpose of accessing medical care. Entry into Uganda has been restricted except for cargo-related handlers such as truck drivers and air cargo crew. This decision was made to reduce the risk of the importation of COVID-19 cases due to the rapid COVID-19 pandemic in all neighboring countries. This risk has increased with the establishment of community transmission. This risk has increased with established community transmission across all neighboring countries. Opening for individuals to come in for care would thus further increase importation of COVID-19 cases. The restrictions on entry across borders should be maintained until the issues above are resolved. Any urgent entry should be handled by the Minister of Health on a case-by-case basis. Travel outside Uganda. Like entry into Uganda, travel outside Uganda would require opening several other related activities, expanding the testing and the quarantine facilities, and detailed SOPs for the screening and authorization of individuals to travel. This restriction should also be maintained. Minister of Health and other relevant ministries should handle requests on a case-by-case basis. Opening of the border districts. Restrictions on in-country travel were lifted for several districts, excluding the border districts. After several weeks of tracking cases and contacts, the Minister of Health has further mapped out the risk profiles across the districts to inform opening of the additional districts. Now, that's their mysterious language. What they are talking about here is that that the information they have got will guide them. That's what they call inform, to inform. Now, if you translate in Runyankore, inform is okumanyisa. Now, this is not what we are talking about here. We are talking about guiding. You get some fact which helps you to do something else. The maps below show the number of cases of community transmission identified across the districts in the past 2 weeks. The number of districts and overall number of cases reduced in the past week. However, continued vigilance is required in all the districts that reported cases in the past 2 weeks. Restrictions should thus be maintained in the districts with evidence of community clusters and other high-risk characteristics in the past 2 weeks as detailed below. Here what they are talking about is that where there is where there are Kazinga, an island of infections, that district should be quarantined. Should be quarantined. So here below, we have seen districts with clusters or potential clusters of infection. Clusters here means groups of infected people that are still under investigation. And these districts are Rakai, Kyotera, Amuru, Buyukwe, there is one factory there, Nguru, Arua, Majumani, Moyo, and Nebi. Districts with the refugees to allow time to test the refugees and the risk profiling before the final decision is made. And these are Zombo, Ajumani, and Arua. Districts with main border entry points that still need more comprehensive surveillance and testing, and those with water bodies and informal crossings across the water bodies, Busia and Burisa. Kampala and Wakiso districts have localized, for example, in one quarantine site, Mulago Paramedical School. They've got localized infection, localized presence of the virus. More vigilance is required in surveillance and compliance with prevention in the densely populated and clustered workplaces such as Chikubo and other downtown locations. The rest of the border districts can be opened, but with continued vigilance and reporting of any suspicious events and compliance to prevent measures. So here there are maps of where there is infection now. Those maps are there. Much of the country is clean, but there are a few, Nachotera, Kampala Wakiso, Buyukwe here, and then Nebi, and some parts of Amuru and Moyo, according to the second map. To support the process of continued opening, lifting of restrictions, they need to ensure compliance of the COVID-19 prevention measures, including wearing of the face masks in public spaces, hand and environmental hygiene, among others. More effort is needed in areas with poor compliance to prevention measures, such as Chikubo in Kampala and other overcrowded downtown areas. That's what they call settings. Areas, some supermarkets that do not regulate the number of shoppers or enforce use of masks, crowding around smaller shops in suburbs, etc. There are also several people who do not wear their masks properly and leave their nose and or mouth uncovered with the masks hanging on the chin. This renders the masks useless. These incidents of non-compliance pose a risk to all Ugandans and may lead to further spread of the infection. For example, we have experienced an outbreak in one factory with several people affected. Ugandans should know that if the disease escalates, it may call for resumption of the restrictions to contain the disease spread and reduce death among the population. Several countries have reinstated restrictions due to poor compliance and increasing COVID-19 infections, a state that Ugandans should avoid. Therefore, the only safe activities that can be reopened now are the public passenger transport and private cars in some of the 33 border districts that do not have the coronavirus. These are Amdat, Bududa, Bukwo, Bunduwiyo, Bufuma, Hoima, Isinyiro, Kabon, Kabare, Karangara, Kanungu, Kasese, Chikube, Chisoro, Kitugum, Koboko, Kwen, Lamo, Maracha, Mayuge, Moroto, Moyo, Namayingo, Namisindwa, Ntoroko, Ntungamo, Pakwach, Rwanda, Rubirizi, Ruchiga, Rukungiri, Sironko, and Yumbe. Not Yumbe. Not Moyo. Or Moyo is not among these. The minister will clarify the list. The minister will clarify the list. So in these ones, we are going to allow now the vehicles, public vehicles to move, and also private vehicles to move, but with the safeguards that are applying in the whole country. So this one is a measure of relaxation, this one here. There will also be a relaxation on the number of passengers in private cars from 3 to 4, including the driver, provided they are all putting on masks. As far as the education institutions are concerned, nobody who cares about Uganda or our children is talking about reopening them as of now. It is just too risky. I'm very hopeful on the front of the vaccine and treatment. There is a recent talk of the drug dexamethasone that is very abundant because our doctors have been using it as an anti-inflammatory drug to treat brain inflammation, allergy, asthma, and other conditions. Our doctors are studying it, and the search for the candidate drugs with antiviral activities is in high gear. We have given them all the support. With the school population, let us be patient. In the meantime, we are going to launch a big long-distance education program, certainly through radios. We are going to give free radio sets to all the homesteads. Radios will soon be distributed. Also, the printed educational materials will be provided. I was personally in favor of a free TV set per village for the learners. The scientists are studying this on account of avoiding crowding by the learners in the villages, which may be a source of spreading the disease. They said the radio set was better because it was per household. It is individual, homestead based. With the politics, the Independent Electoral Commission, in consultation with the scientists, apparently looked at 3 options as far as the general and local government elections that are due for early next year are concerned. The 3 questions to be answered were: 1, if there is no vaccine or clear treatment for this virus by the time of the elections, can the conventional elections of the mass rallies, processions, etc., be safely held? Secondly, can and should the elections be postponed? Thirdly, is there a hybrid that can be constitutionally used to hold the elections on time but safely? They, the Electoral Commission, opted for number 3 because the danger is in the holding of public gatherings. If you eliminate those and messages of the contestants are passed on through the radios, TV, social media, etc., the gathering for the election themselves can be safely managed with hand washing, social distancing, and so on. This would remove the uncertainty that will be created by the postponement of the elections, but also ensure that the elections are held safely. I call upon Ugandans to support this option because it can work if all concerned do their assignment diligently. I end by reminding all of you of the avoidance measures. Number one, tonsemberera otampika, social distancing of 2 meters from person to person. Wash your hands with water and soap or use hand sanitizer to kill the virus your hands may have picked. Sanitize surfaces of tables, door handles, etc. often, and sterilize documents and money by putting them in containers that can achieve the temperature of 70 degrees centigrade. This is hot enough to kill the virus, but not hot enough to burn the documents. Oxyliza. Put on face masks covering the nose and the mouth all the time you are in public place or in a car with others. The Minister of Health should advise our people on the issue of air conditioning in cars. It may be a danger channel. I hate air conditioning. It is unnatural and dangerous. That is why I have no air conditioning in any of my houses, and I long ago switched off your air conditioning in your state house in Entebbe. Number 5, never touch your nose, your mouth, or your eyes with unwashed hands. Recently, on Heroes Day, Mzee Sedunga of the Veteran Association said, in quotes, obulwadde terulina magulu yefe ababutambuza, end of quotes. The coronavirus has no legs. It is us that transport, meaning spread it by our carelessness. We have done well. Let us not relent when we have so far succeeded. The Acholi proverb says, agulu pi to idogola, end of quotes, which means that the water pot breaks when you are about to deliver the water into the house, yet you have successfully carried the water from the well from so many kilometers away. The Luganda one says, obwato bufa magoba. The canoe sometimes breaks when you are in sight of the shore, when you are about to arrive. The Runyankore one says, walemero hake nkeyazalira kenda. You failed narrowly to achieve your target, like a cow that delivers a premature calf when the ninth month is just beginning. We are about to succeed. Let us not relent. The categories of our people that are affected by the lockdown, such as the saloon operators, private universities, private secondary schools, private primary schools, should be registered so that we can see how to get them, not free money, but cheap capital when their activities resume, or even help them to do other activities. The ministers of gender and education will follow up with this. God bless Uganda. God bless Africa. I thank you. Okay. Okay. So I can